All right, for my sick friends in world studies, video notes. You know things are getting rough when we're down to video notes, but when tough get, well, how's the old saying go? When the going gets, yeah, when the going gets rough? No, when the going gets tough get going. There we go. Yeah, that's how it works. Well, I hope everyone is at least maybe feeling a little better or on the road to recovery or whatever it may be. But while you've been gone, we're starting a new unit. All right, and so that you don't fall behind any more so than you might be already. I'm going to just run you through two screens of this. Okay, should only take about 10, maybe 15 minutes, no more. No. Um, and what you're going to do for those of you that are brand new to this, because I don't think we've had to make much use of it, is in your notebook, you're going to want to turn from that last page where you left off on your French Revolution notes, turn to a new page, make sure you're lined up in Cornell, and you're just gonna in your mind, you can just pretend you're back in room 229. All right. And Mr. Floyd's up there and he's flashing some notes up on the screen and he's talking to you about them and getting you some stuff that that'll help you out in your left column. And you get the information down. All right. And like I said, it's just nothing too dramatically different than what you would be doing if you were actually here. All right. So I'll run you through what we covered today, and then boom, that way you are caught up when we get back together, all right? And if you're still gone tomorrow, I may be adding another little video on here, okay? I'll keep you posted on that. If it's something, you'll see it in the stream. Okay, so we are moving on to a unit that's going to look a lot different than what we had going on in Unit 4. Unit 4, we were focused just on one country. Now we're going big again, and we're going to look. We'll start in Europe, but then we're going to start looking elsewhere. And the Industrial Revolution is a huge game changer in world history. We talked about in class today was the fact that there's the world before the Industrial Revolution, which neither you or I would want to live in because that's back in a time with no electricity and no running water or flushing toilets in the house, or just a lot of things that we just assume are part of the deal. But coming out of the Industrial Revolution, those kind of things are going on. Okay. So we wouldn't want to live back during the French Rev, well, for a lot of reasons, but at that time frame anywhere, because things were so crude. But where we really start to see the beginnings and makings of what it seems like a more modern world happens with the Industrial Revolution. Okay, so that's what we're going on. We'll get started on there. Oh, and then the last part there, the consequences. Yeah, the last part of the notes here that we'll focus on is what happens because of this. All right, what happens because of it? And there'll be some good consequences, and there will be some absolutely disastrous consequences as well. We'll get all that covered before we get finished here. We'll probably be spending a good chunk of February on this unit. Okay, all right. So beginnings that you're getting there with Roman numeral 1, changing work changes everything. In other words, the way people actually do their work is going to see a significant shift during this time frame, during the Industrial Revolution. And that is going to be what kind of gets things started in terms of changing a lot of things about how people live their lives. Okay, this first slide we're gonna kind of take a look at it this way. We're gonna remind ourselves what the world was like before the Industrial Revolution, and so really where our focus on is kind of what we've been learning about all year. Unit 2, Unit 3, even Unit 4. Okay, and so the world before the Revolution. First of all. You can look through a lot of different parts of Europe. You look at France, you can go down to Spain, up to Holland, over to England, and you're going to find that hardly anything has changed. Okay, fashions and things like that, sure. Okay, people dress themselves in that, but other than that, life is very much the same. What people wrote in their left column on this was that in most of Europe, about 80 to 90% of the population, people lived in the countryside. They lived in rural settings. They didn't live in towns or cities. Okay, they were spread out all over, and most of them, that word farming, you see it there. That's how most of them are going to make a living. Either they farm their own land, or more likely than not, they work for someone that has land, and they make a living that way. Okay. And so, most of the population, vast majority of them, they're not, kicking back in some big city or town, or they're out there in the sticks. Okay. Most of the people are still involved in working in farming, which is the agricultural part there. or artisan crafts. In other words, they have a specialized skill, kind of like we talked about back in the Middle Ages. Maybe you are someone who works in metals, and so you're a tinsmith or a blacksmith, or maybe you're a woman who has skills and has a spinning wheel so that you can take wool and you can spin it into thread or yarn. Okay, or maybe you're someone who has carpentry skills and can build a house or can build furniture for a house. Those when we use that word artisan, that's what we're talking about, is people who have these specialized skills. And then usually they teach them to their children, and that's how that skill is passed along. All right. If your mom and dad are farmers, then they're going to teach you how to farm. And there you go. Your life is set too. Most of these people don't get up in the morning and say, see ya, hun, back this evening, because they work at home. They work from home. Some of these artisans, they might have a little shed or a little shop out back that they go work in. But, it's like you eat your breakfast and it's like, all right, I'll be in the backyard. Or, it's like you eat your breakfast and it's, okay, I'm heading to the barns, got cows to milk or whatever it may be. They don't necessarily go to work the way we think about it nowadays. And when you have that situation going on where you basically are working at home, that is what we refer to as a cottage industry. Okay, the cottage is an old world name that they used to describe their little houses that they lived in. They were cottages. And so, yeah, it's kind of like, I don't know. I think back to during the pandemic, we're all working from home there for at least a little while. It's like we're all operating our cottage industries. But even I've got a friend that, pretty much at this point, they make their whole living. They got an Etsy business going, and they work it from home. And I guess that would be a modern cottage industry. That's how most people were living back then. All right. This doesn't change. We've been learning about this all year long, that education back in the old days, only for the wealthy. You got to have the money. All right. We might see by the time we're getting to the 18th century that some middle class people who can't maybe afford to send their kid to college or university might pay for a private tutor to at least teach their kid how to read and write. Nothing too fancy. But again, for most of those who are working out on the farm, you're not going to need an education for that. Your education is, how to milk a cow, how to go out and harvest wheat, that kind of a thing. All right. So yeah, still in that world. Okay. And then getting around from place to place to place, it is all going to be done by some kind of muscle power, whether the muscle of an ox or a mule, some kind of like I said, a beast. Or more likely, your own feet, your own legs. That is how most people got around from places. They couldn't afford an animal, and so they literally just, if they are living out in the countryside and they want to go to a little village nearby, maybe pick some things up at the farmer's market or something like that, you're walking. You're walking both ways, all right? There's no bus, there's no train, there's no nothing because, well, we haven't had an industrial revolution yet, all right? So that is all that. Okay, slide number 2. We're going to focus in on Britain. All right, I'll say Britain instead of England because we're going to go a little wider here. Britain contains the countries of Scotland, England, and Wales. All right, some people throw in Ireland too, but I'm going to stick with Scotland, England, and Wales. And this is where the Industrial Revolution gets its beginnings. All right, and we're going to break it down to answer that question, why? All right, and get you some reasons. First reason is natural resources. All right, especially the two you see listed there in the parentheses. The natural resource that the British were without by the time we get to the 1700s is trees. They've chopped down most of the forests that are located in Britain. There's still some trees around, but big forests, no. And so when it comes to, how do people heat their homes? Because back before then, you would chop down some trees, split the logs, and feed those into a fireplace or into a cook stove. All right. But those are now pretty much gone. And the trees that are left, supply and demand, they're really expensive. That's where coal comes in. All right. Coal, like you see the guy holding in his hands there in the picture on the right. Coal looks like, this dirty black kind of rock that's dug from the ground. It's mined. Okay. It's all under the ground. But it is very flammable. You light this stuff and it just lights up and it's kind of slow burning and it produces heat. Okay. So you can use it to heat a home. You can use it to heat up a stove so you can cook on it, that kind of a thing. And so, and the British are lucky that their island that they live on has a bunch of this good stuff, either that or iron ore that'll be used for making metal. It's all right under their feet. Okay. It's all, boom, it's there. Alrighty. Let's see, what else do we got? Oh, growing population. Oh, yes, Britain definitely has a growing population. In 1400, this would be one of those left column kind of things. In 1400, the population in Britain was 2.5 million people. 2.5 million people. Okay. Fast forward 300 years, 1700, 5.5 million people. It's more than doubled. All right. And so, yeah, we kind of got that kind of thing. And that's happening because, in part because of the agricultural revolution, more people doing farming. You also, by this time, had the discovery of the Americas. And along with that discovery, introduced new foods like corn and potatoes to Europe that they had not existed in Europe until America was discovered. And they're easy to grow. And so, more food there is, more food available, yeah, your population grows too. So the British have that to their advantage. They also have kind of these, kind of like revolutions of the mind. Okay, the scientific revolution, the Enlightenment, both encourage people to kind of think outside the box and think of the possibilities out there. And when it comes to the invention of some of the machines that will power the Industrial Revolution, it comes from that, just wanting that, whether it's that kind of drive to want to invent, to try to figure out new ways of solving problems. Yeah, we can connect some of that back to, the advancements of the scientific revolution and some of the thinking of the Enlightenment. Okay. Yeah, Britain is an island nation, all right? They've got all kinds of, they're an island, they're a nation, they're both. They've got all kinds of harbors and ports and sea access that's going to make it really important when they need natural resources from other parts of the world for their factories, and when the stuff that their factories make, when they want to ship it to other countries and other parts of the world. They'll have no problem with that because you got all these access points and all you need are the ships to fill up and off they go and you're making money, all right? And there's another picture just for our enjoyment. There we go. And then last but not least, yeah, the British definitely have an empire that they are growing. Just our last unit, we talked about, Britain's 13 colonies that, that broke away and had their own revolution. But they have others. They're creating colonies in India and other parts of Asia. Pretty soon they're going to be developing colonies down in Africa. And so those colonies and this empire they're developing is going to provide them with a lot of natural resources that they're going to want and need for the factories that the British will be building. Okay, and if it's natural resources that they don't have in Britain itself, they'll be able to go and get them right there from some of their colonies. Even when they had the 13 colonies over here in America, timber. Oh yeah, man, we had plenty of forests over here, and so the British would load up ships and send them back over to Britain full of lumber that they would use for building and stuff like that. Okay, and I think that gets us, yeah, we'll save that. All right, if you are gone again tomorrow, I will probably do another little shot of notes for you. It'll be just like this, probably 15 minutes or less, and you'll just move those into your notebook as well, so that hopefully by the time you've recovered over the weekend and rejoin us next week, you aren't behind, okay? Because obviously that's going to be a big issue. I know all of you are missing a bunch of classes and missing, Lord knows what. And there's going to be a lot of makeup work to be doing. I know. All right. But this will keep you at least up on the notes. All right. Until then, I hope you're feeling better and hope to see you in class soon. Bye.